Good morning and welcome to The Point. It is Monday, December 28th, 2020. Thank you to those of you joining us on the GBN Grenada Broadcasting Network's Facebook page, the Grenada Broadcasting Network's YouTube channel, the website www.gbn.gd, GBN TV channel 7, 11 and 20, and good morning to the listeners of Classic 105.5, 105.9. Thank you so much for joining us on To The Point. It is the first one of the week, the final Monday To The Point of the year. And to join us this morning is our virtual guest, Dr. Augustine Panchu, clinical psychologist. And this morning we're going to be talking our mental health as we close off a historic year and we start a new one. Good morning, Dr. Augustine.
Hi, good morning, Blossom. Good morning. Good
Compliments
morning.
of the season.
To all of our listeners, we say a very, very pleasant good morning. Hoping that everyone had a safe Christmas. Holidays, Boxing Day, marriages, recommitments, a lot of food. Even though the partying and the crowds were less proliferous than we normally would expect for a Christmas time, less visitors to our country, But I'm hoping that everyone has managed and we have survived. And we are about to embrace the final week of 2020.
Exactly.
Very interesting time.
Yes, very interesting time. And it's 2020, my phrase that I use, has been a kind of year. And it has taken a toll on us mentally, considering the things that we've had to experience over the past 12 months. And as we look ahead to 2021, I think that it's fitting that we look at how we can mentally cope going into the new year, how to, shall I say, temper our expectations for 2021 while still being optimistic and positive. To me, one of the best people to discuss that is you, Doc, as a clinical psychologist. So as we get into 2021, first off, let's deal with, before we get into the future, let's deal with the present.
Right.
Over the past few weeks, we have been dealing with this COVID-19 cluster. We've seen our figures pass double from where it was in, let's say, October to now. It has doubled in numbers. That is also a situation that has taken a mental toll on not just the people who are positive, not just the people who have been in contact with those positive people, but the rest of us as well. So how can we deal with this trying times, even as we close off 2020?
Kind of a very scary place to be, given the fact that in November we started up the month with so many cases, and just a handful of positive, actively positive cases, and then within a couple of weeks we've tripled our positive cases rate. So that's a little scary. And Blossom, you're right, because it's taking a toll on the population in general. Of course, the people who have been diagnosed and tested positive, of course, they're distressed, because after all, nobody wants to be the person that brings COVID-19 to Grenada or to their family, or even get infected themselves. So that's a little traumatic for them. And then, of course, we have our healthcare system that looks after everyone who is positive and ensure that their cases are managed. So my empathy must go, Blossom, and I think all of us must acknowledge the hardworking staff of the Ministry of Health, the General Hospital, the COVID-19 committee. But so much so, I want to applaud the work of our nurses and the personnel who must put on their PPE and go out to the homes to monitor, and to the hotels or residents to monitor and to retest. And they're putting their life at risk also. But not only that, I want to introduce a new word to end the year, and it is what I refer to, Blossom, as COVID fatigue. That is fatigue that is as a result of hearing about it, having somebody in your family died or diagnosed with COVID, the healthcare personnel, the other media workers who have to report on it. We're getting tired. That simply is a term that is there out now, So we're getting fatigued, really. After a year of that, we are exhausted. But think of what might happen in the future, right? So we don't want to think that now. We just want to deal with the present, Blossom. And so in a sense, I saw a gesture yesterday, and I didn't really comment on it. I allowed it to sink in. It was the Minister for Hospital Services, Honorable Delma Thomas, when she went with some baskets over the holiday period that were intended directly for the people at the lab. We don't understand the amount of pressure because as people come in, the workers at the lab must work even in the wee hours of the night and in the morning to ensure that people are satisfied. Because I had someone call me and said, Dr. Panju, what can you do? I am here for a couple of days now and I'm still waiting for my very first test. And I'm just having to say, hang in there, somebody is coming. But, the system is overwhelmed. And look at it. It's just, less than 100 active cases right now, I think it is, right? And
yes,
the system is already overwhelmed. And so think of if we are careless about COVID-19, what can happen? So this morning we're talking about what are the inconveniences of the current situation, how is it that we're coping, and then towards the end we're going to talk about what is it that we can do to help usher in 2021, make it a little more positive if we can, and all of that. I talk about the COVID fatigue, and I want to say, as I go around, sometimes during the Christmas Eve celebration, there were a lot of careless people out there. Still too many for me. I chanced it yesterday, went to Bathway, and I still see a lot of people clustering with suspected friends that they're not wearing a mask. I know family is permissible, but for friends and well-wishers on the side, you want to be wearing your mask. And I saw a lot of not mask wearing yesterday and over the Christmas holiday, and that is concern for us as professionals, and also I am sure it is concern for the Ministry of Health and all the personnel. And as I introduce the word COVID fatigue, I think it is because too, a lot of people, Blossom, I tell you the truth, the wearing of the mask is very cumbersome and it's tedious. And there are people who have a lot of problems, who are phobic. They have fears of not breathing. You have asthmatic people who already struggle. You have people with COPD who already struggle with breathing. And now you add the mask. So it is one of those things that we need to do out of necessity of not spreading. But people have to understand how tired and how fatigued it can be to wear a mask for a duration. If you're in Grenville shopping and you're staying there for 3-4 hours, man, you really can't take a break. And that is taking its toll on people. That is not to negate the very careless people who flaunt or who have the mask under their chin and just walk around, and as soon as they see a police officer, they put it on. It's like, but it is the fatigue. What I'm trying to say here, even though we teach responsibility for people during this period, it is really a difficult asking. It is a very difficult asking to have the mask. I attended a function yesterday and I had to have a mask on. And every now and again, I found myself just tipping it under my nose just so that I could feel a little more comfortable. And I know I risk it. And think of people who are not very conscious about it. They themselves, they will violate really easily. So this is where we are with the current situation. the psychological well-being of people, the personnel, all of the healthcare workers, they are fatigued also. It is not an easy thing to get up knowing that all I am going to do for the next 12 or 14 hours for this day is to go and insert swabs in the noses of people. I mean, think about that. Think about that. And you also run the risk for somewhere along the line to get infected yourself, because it doesn't matter how much we prepare with the PPE and all the precautionary measures we take with the gloves and the sanitizers. COVID-19 is just a very, very bad enemy.
How can people mentally cope with this period, with this time, including those folks who have been confirmed positive and coming out of this diagnosis and moving forward? How can we mentally cope? What tips can you give?
Very good. And so before I go with the tips, I want to recognize the people who have been tested positive. So we have probably 60-something, close to 60, and I don't know the figure, so I don't want to brandish a number that is not true. But I know there was a time when we had about 55. Yesterday, I think we had added 12 more positive cases. So we probably are around in the 60s now that are active. Think of these people, Blossom. Most of these people came to Grenada to celebrate with their families. Some have come for funerals, some have come for the Christmas holidays. And testing positive means that before you have an opportunity to interact or to fulfill the purpose for which you bought your ticket and stuff to come here, you have to test negative. And that could take more than 2 weeks. Of course it is, right? Because if you're tested positive, you have to stay 14 days, whether you test, whatever the test results are. And so you guarantee that for the 2 weeks. So there are some people who are going to come on vacation and spend all of their time, if they're tested positive, in a hotel room. Now that is going to work on the person's psyche, their psychological well-being, their emotional wellness. So for these people, there are a few things that you could do depending on where you are and what is permissible in your facility. What do you do? Get up and watch the ocean in the morning if you have the ability to. Get up and look at the sunrise and put on a very exciting, interesting movie. Skype with your friends and family, or WhatsApp or FaceTime if you have an iPhone. So you have to now rely on technology. So people who are confined to their rooms because they tested positive must now rely on technology. And I'm hoping that where you are, you have the opportunity and the privilege to be able to tap into the technology that we have and reach out to family. But it's difficult. It's really a difficult time for people who have tested positive. And already, in addition to the COVID fatigue that comes on them, they are now asking themselves, who else? Remember the cluster? We still, because there are people, 6, I think, from yesterday, are coming from the same cluster that we started off somewhere in the middle of December that gave us a scare.
Correct.
And so people are still being diagnosed positive from that cluster. It therefore means the cluster is still an active zone for COVID-19. So people are still scared and people are still worried. Those whom I came, if you're tested positive, you're asking, did I give it to somebody else? And that has to be a burden for you, because, after all, this is not what life is all about. I do not want to spread something that could possibly lead to the death of another person. And Blossom, I don't know what is going on in Grenada, but let's keep our fingers crossed and our little hands clapped in prayer. We have not had any serious illnesses deriving from COVID. The minister did talk about someone having signs of symptomatology of pneumonia and another respiratory distress. But since then, I have not heard any adverse responses to COVID. And we have, thank God, we have not had any deaths because, of course, you look at St. Lucia. St. Lucia has had 3 or 4 deaths from the COVID-19, and we are close neighbors. And so there's something about Grenada so far, and we're keeping our hands clasped in prayer, that is keeping us safe. And I'm really, really, really glad about the fact that we have not had any serious cases that require hospitalization, because then it becomes very scary. People in the hospital, the healthcare workers become petrified and everything else. And I don't know that our healthcare system can accommodate a large number of people who are positive. So we're doing really well in terms of that. Maybe it's in the food, maybe it's in the temperature, maybe it's in the vivaciousness of the population. Maybe we are really positive people far beyond the regular imagination. Blossom.
Hopefully. Let's hope for the best.
Right.
Coping with this, the tips that we can use to cope with these times as well as going into 2021.
Right. So now as we start figuring, because come Thursday night, for some, if you're Seventh-day Adventist, you believe that the day starts from the sundown. So at sunset on Thursday, then the new year begins. And for many people, we think midnight, that's when the new day begins. So for some at sunset and others at midnight. But whomever you are, whatever form of belief system you have, come Thursday, we are ushering 2021. And that is going to be a significant year for many, because many people look for this New Year resolution to do so many things and looking very positively. In terms of COVID, I don't know that we have this very positive outlook for the beginning of the year. Now, a lot of people are talking about the vaccine. And Blossom, I just want to, before we go with the tips, I just want to talk a little about the vaccine. Because I heard someone on radio yesterday, and I know radio personality, mind you, no disparaging comment, radio for entertainment purposes. And some of them, they don't have the information, and they just go there and they mouthpiece personal feelings that is totally erroneous and not scientific and just silly. I don't want to use certain words to describe it. And so the person was talking last night, discouraging people and questioning the Prime Minister, when are we going to get it, and don't bring it here, etc., the vaccine. I think there is something positive on the horizon. The vaccine, and I want people to know, and I am not a medical professional. I'm a psychologist. I do have some biological training, but not enough to be a medical professional. But what I have been reading and studying is that, and we have to understand that COVID-19 is a strand of the SARS virus, which is respiratory distress. But that illness, that virus, has been under study for many, many, many years. COVID is only a different strain. So the vaccine is not coming from, as we say, from scratch. In other words, there has been research on the vaccine for respiratory illnesses for a long time. COVID just presents as a new strain of the same SARS virus. And so the research has been there already. So for people who are questioning, it is so soon, it should take 6 years. No, the research is not brand new. So when the vaccine does come, I will not be the mouthpiece of the ministry or the government anyway, but I am just saying from a research base, when the vaccine does come, it will be a safe vaccine to take. Let me say this, if the vaccine is available right now, I'll take it. And let me also tell you that, Blossom, is that even though we can have a forecast of bright outlook later on, the vaccine will not, I don't think the vaccine is going to get to the general public in Grenada maybe August, before the ending of 2021, because it's not going to get to the population in the United States, a regular man and woman on the street, until July, August. Okay? And the US has 350 million people to vaccinate. Okay? Well, that's the population. So I'm telling you that the vaccine will not get to the regular man and woman in the Caribbean maybe towards the end of 2021. So don't be afraid of the vaccine. If it does come, when it does come, I think it's something to look forward to. So what can we do? So let's pilot ourselves now to welcome in 2021. I think as we enter 2021, it requires us to be intentional and positive. And maybe that should be the thrust of the Ministry of Health, in addition to be safe, is to do a lot of psychoeducation, teaching people how to deep breathe, teaching people how to affirm self, how to do self-talk, how to be optimistic. You know, we brandish the word optimism out there, Blossom, and you need to be positive and you need to be optimistic. I think there are so many strategies that we can teach people of how to go about being optimistic, you know, to be positive, to give a lot of affirmation. And so maybe we'll start it to Blossom come the new year on your program. We'll have the word of the day to be a positive word, a word that will, and I know you do that already, but we want to probably make it a little more, focus on what it is to be positive, a positive affirmation, something that we can look forward to every day. It's like a daily word from Blossom on your show. And we can do that. But it is really important for people to be intentional, to wake up with a purpose and to find your purpose, find what it is that you're good at and you want to achieve in 2021. I say this here for people who are successful, Blossom. People who are successful are people who look at hurdles and they look at setbacks and they use these setbacks and the hurdles as platform to change the trajectory of where they want to go. There's a good saying, it's not the strength of the wind, but it's the direction of your sail. Set your sail. Whatever wind there is, set your sail accordingly. And so we may need to make a lot of changes in the way we do things. We may need to make personal changes in the choices that we've been making. We may need to probably pray a little more or probably amends bitterness. We may have to do introspection about our lives, where it is that we're going, what it is that I've been harboring, what is it that have been preventing me from being optimally happy. There are lots of people who are situationally happy. You give them money, they're happy. You give them bread and cheese, they're happy. Give them a nice dress, they're happy. And after they wear their dress or they eat the bread and cheese or they drink the bottle of Woodman, then they're not happy. So we have to start teaching people now that there is something called joy. Joy is something that we can't take away from people. It doesn't matter what situation that you're in. When you have joy and when you know how to find your joy, you wake up in the morning and even though your head is hurting, but because you're a joyful person, the joy will override and set you really great for the day. And I think as we approach 2021, we have to teach people now how to tap into the real source of joy. Joy must not come from situation. That's just joy. That's just happiness. Happiness, is like whatever make you happy or what make you sad. When we tap into the things that give us joy and give us purpose, then we start living life in spite of and despite of. That you hear these two phrases being used a lot, and what it means is that I may not have a lot of money in my pocket, but that does not take away my joy, because my joy is purposeful and it has a source. And many people believe that the source of their joy is a higher power. Some call him God, some call him Jesus, some call him Yahweh, some just refer to it as a higher power or the omnipotent. But whatever it is that you have your source of your joy, we in 2021, we need to tap deeper into that source so that we get more COVID cases, we're still finding joy and purpose in life. We get a vaccine to help us, we still have our joy. And we don't get a vaccine and we don't have a cure, we still find joy. And for me, it has to be really intentional, and we can teach people how to be positive and how to affirm others and affirm self and build yourself as you approach. Because 2021 is not going to be so much about jobs, etc. It's going to be about emotional survival. Mark my word. How we survive emotionally. Because listen, for the last couple months, many businesses have suffered. People have lost their income, or they have seen their income drastically reduced, but they have survived. It therefore means that there is something bigger than money, and something bigger than a lot of gifts, etc. Because we may not have had all the parties this Christmas and these holidays. We lost Carnival, but you didn't see anybody, dying over it, in a sense, because what people tapped into was the emotional resilience. And so 2021 is going to give us another opportunity to dig deeper into finding emotional resilience. That is the ability to find joy and to live with a purpose in spite of what is going on.
On that note, Doc, let's take a break and come back and continue the discussion on our mental health as we close off 2020, get into 2021, looking forward with optimism and high expectations for some of us. We'll be right back with To The Point on Classic and GBN.
From Monday, November 2nd to Thursday, December 31st, GBN's Christmas Caravan will be blazing the trail of goodness across Grenada. Join us as we journey daily to find the hottest deals this Christmas season. Win prizes from our partners. Get recipes for your favorite Christmas treats and bust a tune in the Christmas Karaoke Fun segment. It's GBN's Christmas Caravan. Weekdays from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. Live on Classic Radio 105.5 and 105.9. GBN Television Channels 7 and 11. GBN's Facebook page and GBN's YouTube channel. Your mid-mornings will never be the same.
The Christmas Caravan is brought to you in part by Hubbard's and the Food Fair Supermarkets, Kittens Healthcare, Sissons Paint, and Bryden and Miners and Ace Hardware.
Grenada's chief medical officer has ordered that all confirmed positive COVID-19 individuals, their contacts, and members of their household must remain in quarantine or isolation for 14 days. Anyone who fails to comply with this order will be in breach of the Public Health COVID-19 Regulations 2020 and is guilty of an offense. Upon summary conviction, that person will be liable to a penalty of up to $10,000. A message from the Ministry of Health.
You've spoken, we have heard. Now we're making more time available for your evening primetime shows on K105. From Monday, July 6th, Your Law will air from 6 to 7 p.m. On Tuesdays, Simply Agriculture. And on Wednesdays, join discussions on constitution reform in partnership with Island Media. At 5:55 p.m., we bring you news headlines, a capsule on local, regional, and international events, followed by News at 7 via simulcast with GBN Television. Join Godfrey Augustine for stimulating discussions on Release It from 8 p.m. on Wednesdays and Thursdays. GBN's K105.5 and 105.9. We're with you everywhere and anywhere. If you're on the move, catch us online at www.gbn.gd.
Hello.
Yo, Lava, what going on? Season greetings, boy.
Season greetings.
What we doing later, boy? Christmas Eve, now?
Nah, boy. Nah, I ain't going nowhere later. To be honest, I'm good, man.
Oh, all right, man. Respect.
Yeah, enough respect. Fly the Jones Swoosh, Laberman saying, looking to party this Christmas season, do so responsibly. Do not give or get the gift of COVID. Be COVID-19 smart. Do your part. Stay 6 feet apart. I keep my distance. A message from the Ministry of Health. Fly the Jones Swoosh.
Welcome back to The Point. We're speaking with clinical psychologist Dr. Augustine Pantru, our mental health as we close off 2020 and looking ahead to 2021. Doc, in relation to optimism and positivity and maybe not dwelling so much on what has been a difficult year for some of us, how can we do that wholeheartedly, genuinely?
I think we can. One of the things that we have to remember, Blossom, is that achievement, if you ask people who have succeeded really well, who have done a good job at success, they will tell you that a lot of times it starts with the idea being churned in their mind. In other words, just keep it going, keep positive. They don't have the money, but they see themselves as going to university. They don't have the land yet, but they see themselves as having a house and a home. And so they keep that. They wake up fresh every day, trying to be creative and thinking positive because they have that purpose, they have that goal, they have that achievement that they want to. And so the question you ask is, how can we do that? Make it more intentional. There is a book out there that I had the opportunity to read. It's called The Purpose-Driven Life by Rick Warren. A theologian, but kind of philosopher. And what he talks about is that you find what it is that you want. Ask yourself on a daily basis, what is it that I really want to achieve in this life? You find it and you lay the plans, even if you start with the plans in your mind, and then you put it on paper. And you keep writing and you keep building and building, even when there is no evidence of the means to achieve your purpose. Even when there is not the visible means to achieve your purpose, you, excuse me, I'm on TV and I'm sneezing. Something in the air conditioning.
Yep.
But you have to make it. You have to make it a purposefully part of your agenda for life. And I want to reference something here. You know, we're talking about being optimistic and being positive for 2021 as we embrace the new year, as we're prepared to embrace the new year. Some things in our lives must change. There's no question about it. I think people, they falter when they make resolutions and they're not meaningful. They just, I want to lose weight. I want to become healthy. And for the face value of it, they imply that, or they say that and they promise that. But then when it comes to the real work, they're not prepared. So what is going to have to happen for 2021 is that people are going to have to make purpose-driven statements about themselves, and they will have to mean it and want it real bad. You know, Blossom, if we really want something and we really want it real bad, we are going to get it. Because a lot of times we give up, and we give up because I don't think we really want it. We want it real bad. If you are out there in the ocean and you are drowning, and there is an opportunity for you to be saved, you are going to do everything within your power to be saved, because at that time you will want air, and you will want it so bad that you will make every effort within your human body and in your mind also to stay alive. That is how we must want success. That is how we must want purpose to be fulfilled in our life. We must want it so bad and see it as oxygen, that if you don't get it, you will die. So you want it so bad that you're going to do everything within your power. And even outside of yourself, you're going to tap into resources from outside because you want it so bad. And these are some of the changes that we will have to make as we embrace 2021. You know, for example, it saddened me when the Commissioner of Police, Mr. Martin, reported recently that there has been an upsurge in reported cases of incest. I think it's one of the things that I talked about several times on your show as we started to feel the effects of COVID, with people being locked up, locked down, and sexual predators being locked in spaces with victims or easy prey. And I knew I could, most of us who are psychologically au fait and think that kind of a thought, we foresaw that. And we knew that unless many things were put into place, then we would have that. I am saying that as we embrace 2021, some of those things that we've been advocating for, proactive measures, precautionary measures, preventative measures to safeguard the vulnerable must come into play. We have to make it intentional for them and purpose-driven, or else, granted, at the end of, by the time 2021 comes in and ends, we're going to find that we have so many social ills to deal with. One of them being the increase in report of domestic violence and sexually perpetrated crimes against women, children, and boys. And I'm saddened by that. But as we look forward to 2021, this is one of the areas in which churches, organizations, parents, individuals, law enforcement, mental health professionals, we must all come together and make it our purpose to safeguard the rights and the lives of vulnerable people in our population.
At this point in the program, we're going to invite our viewers and listeners who may have questions for Dr. Pantru on dealing with your mental health, closing out 2020, going into 2021. This is your opportunity to ask those questions. The landline 435-2041. The WhatsApp also 435-2041. Please, only written messages on WhatsApp. You can also pose your comments, questions, queries, concerns on Facebook and YouTube. Let's go to our first caller. Good morning, caller.
Good morning.
Morning.
Dr. Pantru, we always talk about success. How could we measure success? In other words, as a psychologist, what might be successful to one person may never be successful to another one. I should think it might depend on the cranium, the intellectual ability of the person, or the innate capacity of the person. A man or a woman or someone whose value is low might say they are successful, let's say if they get in 10 cents a day. Another one, like you, might say you are not successfully getting $10,000 a month. So as far as I'm concerned, success depends on the individual and perhaps the hereditary. For example, you may born in a area or in a family that motivates you, and consequently, you would not be satisfied with being a clinical psychologist. You might want to be a double clinical psychologist, so you might feel, I'm not happy until I reach that. So for me, success depends on the individual and perhaps the motivation of the individual. So let's say in the next few years, in Grenada, things come so bad that none of us have a vehicle. And then I could adapt myself and say, you see me, I go feel happy during that era. And some may never be able to feel happy living in an environment where you do not, well, all of us don't have things. Do you think this could cause emotional distress for the one that set his mind to a high goal?
All right. Thank you so much, caller.
Yeah. That's a very good question, caller. I really applaud you. You have covered quite a number of areas, and I may not be able to address all of them, but I want to just highlight a couple. One, yes, I believe success is relative. Success is not, and let's establish this for our listeners, Blossom, and for ourselves. Success is not about material gain. I think, success is not only about material gain. Success is a state of mind, right? And that's why you plot a graph, and on the graph you have in the bottom, and then you have the middle, and then you have the top, and your pyramid is the same thing, and you're climbing a mountain, it's the same kind of a thing. So you have people at the bottom, and you have in the middle, and you have at the top. And success has to do with where you feel you are and your achievement. Your achievement, you may think that you are successful, and you're probably as successful, and other person may look at you and say, but you know what? You could achieve a little more. You could achieve a little more. So when we look at success, it's not only in the amount of education you have, or the money, or the material things that we have. It's a state of finding yourself and what makes you happy. And if you're happy at $10 a day, then so be it. Live your life at that area. However, if you desire to aspire for more, then you will be driven. And that's the thing about success, Blossom, is that when we are driven to always achieve the best for ourselves. Okay? So thank you, caller, for those. And let me say that for people who value material things or a lot of achievement as success, when it is taken, Blossom, it causes emotional distress. Okay? So people who lose, if you value your nice new car, and I saw somebody with a vehicle and I laughed, and you know what they wrote on it? Above the rest. And I'm thinking, gosh, what, that brand of vehicle is above the rest? If you had a Bentley, you talk about, but you have a little Isuzu, you're talking about everybody in Grenada has an Isuzu, and you're right on the top, above the rest. But for him, what I'm trying to say is that for him, he has achieved, okay, and that's his success. And for others who drive a BMW, a brand new BMW, saying, well, come on, let's put it together, and you'll realize that this one is not so above the rest, really. Thank you, caller, for that question.
A question on the Facebook. Do you think there is a link between self-centeredness and depression?
Well, I didn't look at the research. However, when we talk about self-centeredness, we're talking about people who are probably egotistic, and they put themselves, maybe even narcissistic. But I don't know if that's what the person is asking. But self-centeredness does have some symptoms of egotism and narcissism in it. When you make yourself the center of everything, the question is, could it lead to depression or mental challenges? Of course, because if Blossom, I make myself the center of the party, and people don't recognize me at the party, then that deflates my sense of centeredness. If for my birthday I'm thinking that Tom, Dick, Harry, and I'm naming people who must call me and give me gifts, and they didn't do it because it's all about me, then I will be probably deflated or sad for that period of time, or if I didn't get the attention. So yes, you're right. There is a possibility, not a possibility, there is a relationship between self-centeredness and depression, because not all depression are clinically based, chemically based. Sometimes we have depression that comes from situations in our lives that bring us down. Yeah.
Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Blossom. Morning, Dr. Pancho.
Good morning.
I want to agree with some of the things. I don't agree with some of the things that he said, but one of the things he mentioned, the word joy. I want to also say that joy is the spirit of truth. And part of the problem, our problem here, is that we are not truthful to ourselves and to one another. So that is something we have to work on. Secondly, the issue of, he did mention the need for solidarity or the sense of community. This would help. And it's non-existent, almost totally non-existent right now. And to me, that is what is lacking. Additionally, he mentioned the issue of being intentional and positive and, with some inspiration. Yeah, we need more of that. But you see, unless people understand the mechanism of how the mind works, how the brain works, and so on, they'll be doing all this positive stuff and they're not working. So people need inspiration, therefore. Inspiration to stretch themselves, to go a little extra. I am doing that. I've been doing that for some years. And in fact, in the last 2 weeks, I've done with another person a series of 4 sessions on conflict resolution. And all the sessions we did it in Grenville, in St. Patrick's Hotels, we did it in Victoria, and in St. David's. And all the sessions, people saying we need more of that because the tension is building up. We need to really help people understand that we're in this boat. We are all in this boat as one. And the last thing, I know I could say a lot of stuff, but the last thing I would say, 2 things. One, I want to say a little about the vaccine. The thing about it is that we're not helping ourselves. When we give all this nice little sounding thing about social distancing and so on, and then people are expected to go on the bus and jam up. We are, like me, sometimes have to go. And I'm feeling, Dr. Pancho said people might be feeling the psychological effect. I go in a bus and being called up without no sanitation. Some people don't have no mask. It makes me very uncomfortable because everybody not following the rules. And that's the problem. We are a nation that is a lawless people. People don't like to hear me say that. Lawless people, we have probably aspirations to be lawful, but we're not law in almost every sense of the word. Finally, Dr. Pancho, I respect your opinion on from where you're coming from in terms of the vaccine. But I have other sources that tell me, for instance, this vaccine or the main ingredient of this vaccine has never been used before. It's genetically modified. And if you listen to some, not conspiracy theory, people who have been in the field who tell you, like Dr. Velva Bowles, who I'm trying to get to speak to Grenadian people soon, somewhere in January. He would tell you, for instance, we have to ask ourselves the question, why did President Trump contracted the vaccine and were able to get better in 3 days' time? The reason because he was treated with a different regime that is being promoted. He was treated basically with antibodies. We're not focusing on that. That was one of the things that rescued the AIDS situation, the HIV situation in the 90s, in the 80s and 90s. But so we're saying that don't just tell people to take the vaccine. There's a lot of risks.
Okay.
You'll change the DNA, you'll change everything. It has never ever happened before. Of course, there is other stuff about the conspiracy to control you and so I'm not going into that now. But we must not just tell people, the vaccine is not. It's so many unanswered questions. Thank you for your indulgence. Bye.
Thank you very much. Doc?
Thank you very much, caller. That caller made a lot of sense, and yet there are precautionary measures for a lot of things and vaccine, etc. But there are 2 things I wanted to just kind of highlight what he said about joy, about being truthful to self. Blossom, mark my word, we will not find really joy in its full essence, optimally, unless you're true to self. You must be true to self. It is the only medium through which you can be true to others. And then the second point that he made again, and coming from our discussion, is that as we prepare to embrace 2021, we got to be a community. Blossom, we need family, we need relationship, we need workers and peers to work together. We need, if you're in an educational institution, we need people in your cohort, in your group, in your study. We need people to look out for each other, to be support for each other, and just to be there. We cannot, Blossom, we will not be able to navigate the treachery of 2021 unless we become a community.
Would you say that would be key to getting through or getting a better outlook on 2021? Family and loved ones and friends, that would be key for most, if not all of us?
Absolutely, absolutely. This is what I'm telling us today. That's what I'm promoting. Purposeful. We have to be purposeful about it. So when we talk about family, the old relationships that have been severed and that have been fractured because of all kinds of minute and petty, I call it minutia, small things. We got to fix those relationships that have been broken with a neighbor that you used to be so cool with, and you know, whether it is an animal destroy that relationship or a fence destroy that relationship, we need to now build a bridge and get that back. Whether it is your coworker, whatever it is, your professor, your supervisor at work, it's only community that is going to stand with us as we embrace 2021, because 2021 is going to be precarious as 2020 ended, you know. We're not going. There is nothing separating 2021 and from 2020, you know. Come Thursday, whether it is at sunset or at midnight, it's the same breath we are going to be taking. So we are ushering a brand new year with all of the hindrances, obstacles, and pain and trauma of 2020. And it's a community. It's togetherness. It's purposeful, mindful, self-talk, optimism that is going to carry us.
Any final thoughts, tips, suggestions you can give us, Doc, as we close off 2020?
I tell you, I want to applaud the Ministry of Health, the government of Grenada, but not just them. Of course, they took the lead. But I want to applaud the healthcare workers in Grenada. They have done human service. I want to applaud the media. Blossom, through you invented the COVIDious word, and it has stuck with me, carried with hundreds, thousands of us in Grenada. People like you on the media. Beyond the headlines that Sherman had a show for a little while. Also, I am saying Grenada has done relatively well. We have done well to manage our COVID response. We have also done well psychologically. Despite the many ills that have come out of COVID-19 with abuse and incest and sexual perpetration and predatory behavior, and we can amend. So we're looking 2021 with optimism that we can build on the gains that we have done in 2020 and make it purposeful for 2021, make it intentional, positive thoughts, positive affirmation, family, community, and finally, Blossom, a belief in God. I cannot end without reminding us that there is someone out there who created us. That's what I believe. And so if I offend anybody by saying that this morning, bless you, I'll pray for you too. But I believe that there is a purpose for which we were created. And I believe that there is a supreme being who is all caring, all loving. And he's going to see us through this, He's going to see us through this. We're going to come out, maybe with some scars, Blossom. We're going to have scars and little marks from 2020 and 2021. But in the end, we are going to be all right.
Thank you so much, Doc. And in case I don't see or hear you for the rest of the year, I wish you all the best for 2021. Thank you so much for always coming on and shedding some light as we continue to deal with this year. I appreciate it and appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and Godspeed, and a very prosperous 2021 is on the way for you. I know that.
Thank you. I accept it. I receive it. Thank you very much.
There you go.
Have a good one, and all the best for 2021.
Okay, blessings.
Clinical psychologist Dr. Augustine Pantru, our guest this morning, as we deal with our mental health and ending 2020 and moving forward to 2021. We thank him so much. And thank you, our viewers and listeners, for tuning in today. Hopefully, the tips that the doc provided can help us prepare ourselves mentally to face 2021. Have yourselves a safe, productive Monday. Joseph is up next with the Christmas Caravan, I believe. Yes, Christmas Caravan. Thank you so much. I'll be back with you tomorrow morning, God willing. Stay safe, observe the protocols, and protect yourselves and the lives of your loved ones. Have a good day.